We all love our veterans, but stay tuned today and listen to the story of a daughter of a veteran. Don't touch that dial. This is the first time I've ever interviewed anyone with a crown on. So, so glad that you are here. You are the Miss USA World Universal Ambassador. Thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Paula.
Before we get into the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and everything else, tell us a little bit about this title and also about your journey to receive this or earn this title.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am formerly Miss Michigan World Universal. I competed back in October where I won Miss USA Ambassador.
All right.
And I use my platform to elevate the voices of my fellow caregivers.
Fantastic. And so does every contestant have to have a platform that they talk about during the contest?
With our particular system, it's not a requirement, but it's an added bonus if there's something that you're passionate about.
Nice.
And with this being a part of my daily life, that's the perfect platform for me.
Absolutely. So tell us about the USA Ambassador. What is that? Who's behind it, and how do people apply for that?
Yeah, so with Miss USA Ambassador, I'm one of 4 current title holders with the World Universal Pageant System.
Mm-hmm.
So women that are ages 19 to 25 can apply for our new Miss USA Global World title. And we also have the Ms. division with the Miss USA World Universal Pageant.
So are you going to be applying for the global?
I do not qualify for the global.
Okay.
That's 19 to 25, so I'm older with the 26 and up category.
Oh,
So
okay. All right.
I wouldn't be eligible for that one.
Well, you look like you're not a day over 19. So,
Thank you.
So who sponsors this?
This is sponsored by World Universal Pageants and our director, Miss Keela Douglas.
Okay. And so you talked about your platform and you mentioned caregiving. Tell us a little bit about your journey with caregiving. You seem so young, but you're on a caregiving journey yourself, and that was the platform you used when you spoke about, or when you applied for, was a contestant for this particular honor, right?
Yes. So my caregiving journey started almost a decade ago. I can't believe it, but I was 28 at the time. My father, who is a Vietnam era veteran from the Marine Corps, suffered a stroke, and it was something that just completely changed the trajectory of both of our lives. So in the process of that, trying to stay active and trying to find other ways to, navigate a normal life, so to speak, I chose to look into ways that would pretty much be able to pay for me to go back to school. I was already in my master's program when I started taking care of my dad, and I thought I wanted to do a doctorate program, but you need funding for that. So I looked for unique scholarship opportunities, and pageantry popped up, and everything started from there about 5 years ago, and now I'm here with my first national title.
Fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
For you as a caregiver, what's that journey been like? I mean, we at AARP, we talk a lot to people who are caregivers. We have 1.7 million members throughout the state, and I think 90% of them almost either have cared for someone, need a caregiver, or they are a caregiver. So talk a little bit about that journey, everything from what it's meant in terms of how you've had to pivot in your own life and what it's meant in terms of the reward for you to be able to do that for your father.
Of course. It's been a very challenging journey, yet a very rewarding journey. As I mentioned before, I was 28 at the time, and that's not something a lot of young adults perceive their journeys being like. They are pursuing school, they're pursuing their careers, and everything just kind of came to a standstill. Luckily, I was able to continue with my studies, but it was very difficult and it has continued to be very difficult for me to pursue full-time work or continue with my career path. I've had to take several breaks. I've had to navigate lots of other hospital visits for my dad, other health scares. It's just been a very rocky journey, but he's healthy. He's still thriving. He does have mobility issues from his stroke. So that's, where I come in.
We certainly appreciate his service. That's a debt that we can never repay. So and I wish there were more resources available so that you could get a little bit of respite care yourself as well. We've been advocating for just even some financial support for caregivers, a tax credit, whether you have to, again, make provisions in order to have someone stay in their own home And, it saves the state money when someone stays in their home versus going to an institution or going somewhere else. So thank you for doing that. What role does the Elizabeth Dole Foundation play in this whole journey?
Of course, with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, I've had the pleasure of being one of several hundred fellows that we have. We have a Dole Caregiver Fellowship program. So every year we choose a cohort of new caregivers representing all service eras who are taking care of their loved ones and who want to advocate more passionately about what we need as caregivers.
Very nice. What would you say to young people? Because people aren't planning for the journey that you're on. Even in high school and college, no one's talking about long-term care, about taking care of your loved one, grandparents taking care of grandchildren. No one's talking about that. So if you were advising some young person about their journey in life as it relates to caregiving, what would you tell them?
I would tell someone who is younger, who hasn't even thought of this caregiving journey, plan ahead. Talk to your loved ones, talk to your parents, grandparents, even your friends. That conversation should start now. You don't want to find yourself in the midst of a crisis and having to navigate and ask those questions of what's next? What do I do now?
Well, that's excellent advice because no one's sharing that information. So thank you for that. So as you're traveling all over the state or all over the country or all over the world, what does your travel itinerary look like?
My travel itinerary varies depending on the event, depending on the requirements of different organizations and whatnot. So I am fortunate enough to be able to use respite care through the VA for those travels, whether it's for going to DC with the fellowship program and navigating our Hill Day meeting with the representatives, or heading out of town to support my other pageant sisters, or attending other events.
Fantastic. What's the career trajectory for you? I mean, you talked about wanting to get into a doctoral program. Is that still something on your agenda?
It is not currently on my agenda at the moment. I did try, I did get into a pre-doctoral program for clinical psychology, but it is more stress than I want to take on. Caregiving is already pretty stressful and hectic, as well as everything else I have going on. So I did give it a shot, but I know that that's not for me. With my master's degree and appropriate certification, I'll be able to sit for my board certified behavior analyst exam next year.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
So I don't want to pursue a doctorate. It was more so of a passion, something that I wanted to go for and shoot for, but it's not necessary.
And you have a platform now too that really helps you to really share your message with thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in terms of caregiving. How has your pageant experience helped with your caregiving journey and just elevating that voice?
Yeah, absolutely. With pageantry, it's been giving me a wider platform to be able to reach the masses, to say, hey, this is a national need. This isn't just something that you hear of, oh, I'm, taking care of mom, I'm taking care of dad. This is a 52-point million issue for the nation and 5.5 million for us military caregivers. So being able to reach other people and show them that, hey, this is an important matter, and there's ways to navigate your journey. You don't have to navigate it alone. It's given me a renewed purpose. A lot of people feel that they lose themselves in their caregiving journey. So pageantry actually helped me regain another sense of purpose.
That's very powerful. Yeah. So you weren't lost. You became much more visible, and that platform helped to elevate the message that you care so much about. Did you have a choice? Did you feel like you had a choice when it came to caregiving? I mean, there are a lot of people who wouldn't do what you're doing. A lot of young people, older people, age irrelevant. But did you feel like you had a choice?
Yes and no. As far as taking care of my dad, I would do this all over if I have to. With it just being us, I lost my mother when I was in high school. So he's all I have. So it's like, that's dad. I'm going to take care of him. But then again, there are other options for, if this wasn't something that was possible for me, if we could have someone to come in and take care of him, or using, appropriate facilities or whatnot. But then again, he worked hard to, own his home, twice retired. So I want him to be comfortable in his home. So there was no choice.
Good for you. And good for your parents. They've raised someone who's exceptional. I can tell that already.
Thank you.
How hard was it to navigate through the system for caregiving, to get the kind of resources and services that were necessary? Was it challenging?
It was pretty challenging to navigate
And
everything.
he's a veteran, so it's supposed to be easier,
It
but it's
should
not.
be. It's
But
not. And that's where being a fellow comes in and being able to be another voice for military caregivers. But it was very challenging, especially with him being pre 9/11 service era. There were not a lot of options or programs that were geared towards pre 9/11. Everything was post 9/11. And collectively, I feel there should be no difference. No matter how long you served, how long ago you served, everything should be available to everyone. So we got a lot of no's in the beginning, lots of calls saying, hey, I wish I could help you, but he's not the right service era, or even with his age, because he was in his mid 60s. So it was kind of like, there's not an appropriate program, or with him not having dementia or Alzheimer's. So there's lots of stuff that makes a difference as to whether or not things are accessible. So it's been a very challenging road to try to access a lot of things.
how would you fix that?
I would fix that, and I've been trying to fix that by meeting with my state representatives, sending letters, having those conversations, and, continuing that fight for, a better care infrastructure.
Absolutely. And that's what AARP has been fighting for caregivers for a very, very long time. Like, again, I mentioned like a caregiving tax credit, whether it's $5,000 or whatever the amount is, just to help with some of the retrofitting of the home that you might have to do. Making certain that employers know that caregivers need some time off as well, just with family medical leave or whatever it might be, just some time off for caregiving. At AARP, they give every employee, I think it's like 40 or 80 hours, just to, you don't have to use your vacation, you don't have to use administrative leave, just to take care of a loved one. I think it's 2 weeks of just caregiving. You take an hour at a time or 2 hours at a time. So you just, people need to know, and we're saving, when someone takes care of their loved one in their own home, which is where people want to be, where they want to stay in their home. At least I think our surveys show like 89% of them do. I always wonder what the other 11% want, but they probably don't want to be around their children that long. But for 89% of people who want to stay in their own home, it saves the state of Michigan billions of dollars. I think it's like 51 billion for not having to send them and go through other services. So a little bit of help, making the resources easier. Another thing that we really try to do is we're working on now, we're not there yet, is just having like a one-stop shop for caregivers. So you don't have to call 15 different numbers, right? To try to
Yes.
find out, can I get a lift? Can I get a wheelchair? Can I get a cane or whatever? And calling, they always want to refer you somewhere else. So a one-stop shop would be very helpful, at least from what we've hearing from other folks as well. So as you've traveled the world and the country and the state, tell us about a success story, something that you've seen in your journey that that you have helped to make a difference in someone else. That has to be in someone else's life. That has to be very gratifying.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're
Oh my
sharing your
goodness.
story with people, so I'm sure that people have shared their stories with you that in
Yes.
terms of.
Yes. Actually, I've had probably a few experiences where people have reached out to me after either reading my story in the paper or seeing me on other shows. And it means a lot to me when they reach out, because they see themselves in my story, and they get to see it from a different perspective. Like I said, a lot of people feel like they have to put their dreams on hold, and they're like, oh my gosh, she's a caregiver, but she's a pageant girl, or she travels and she does all this other stuff. So it's a very beautiful thing,
Yeah.
for sure.
And there's a certain courage that comes with telling your own story. Being able to, and there are people who just, I don't want to say suffer, but who go through, because it's not suffering, but they go through their pain, their agony, their hurt, their guilt, their everything in silence. So when you actually start sharing that, you lift up other people.
Yes.
And people realize they're not alone. That's what you're doing for so many people out there now. You're lifting them up and letting them know they're not alone. But you don't hear it as much from young people as much as as you're sharing. So it's nice that it's not, because we always think it's just older. It's not just older folks. It's everybody, everybody. So if you were talking to any caregiver out there right now, what advice would you give them?
If I was talking to any caregiver, I would tell them to keep going. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There's going to be a lot of times that you feel like, you don't have the support, but with other caregivers, you always have support. Keep asking those questions and keep advocating for your loved one.
Love that. I love that. So we talk about veterans, and the veterans are near and dear to my heart, just for so many different reasons. And I don't think they ever get the kind of and a lot of times they don't want the recognition, but the kind of recognition they deserve. But as you look at at veteran resources that are available, what would you tell the state of Michigan? Let's assume that those influential people throughout the state and Veterans Affairs and others, even nationally, what would you say to veterans out there in terms of what resources are available, what needs to happen, what else how should we take better care of our veterans?
Of course. I definitely think that they deserve all the support. So be proactive about, being vocal about what your needs are. Don't be afraid to ask. You more than deserve it. You deserve to be cared for. You cared for our nation, and now it's the nation's turn to take care of you. So ask those questions. If you don't have an advocate, find one. And yeah.
That's powerful. Very nice. And the Elizabeth Dole Foundation has been involved. How did they get involved? How did you get connected to them?
I got involved with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation after my first go around as a fellow with a different organization. I was a fellow with Caring Across Generations first, and I enjoyed my experience so much I wanted to keep going, and finding that there was a fellowship and a program that was dedicated to military caregivers that led to an even bigger platform for caregiving to make an impact there. So I was able to get connected there, became a fellow, and the rest is history from there.
Do you know why? Have any idea why Elizabeth Dole has chosen caregiving as one of their, what's the story behind that?
Yes, so Senator Elizabeth Dole is passionate about military caregiving because of the stories that she heard while caring for her husband, Senator Bob Dole. And she heard so many different stories from caregivers down at Walter Reed, and she said, someone has to fix this. And that's been her journey from there, helping everyone.
Something tells me that you might have your own foundation one day doing something powerful, just as powerful or even more powerful than that, because lifting your voices takes a real act of courage to do that. And we are so thankful to the Elizabeth Dole Foundation for all their wonderful work. We have Melissa Seifert on our team who works very closely with them, and they do a phenomenal job for veterans and caregiving for veterans. And so, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So maybe part of your behavioral analyst, is that what they do agree, the certification?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think for what I do as a behavior analyst, that could tie into ways to help support our veterans and our caregivers learn behavioral skills to help them with their journey. So that's definitely something that I can
Let me tell you something.
into.
When you wake up in the morning, you're helping. Just by getting up and lifting your voice and talking about this and helping your father and helping other people, you can't help but help other folks just by the journey that you're on. So I appreciate that so much. We've got about a minute and a half left. So in that minute and a half or so left, tell us, what do you want people to know about the journey you're on, about caregiving, about Elizabeth Dole, or about you and the work that you're doing?
Of course. I just want people to know that there's resources out there, additional support that is available to wider communities, not just, the military caregiving community, but there's lots of research that you have to do with it. If you don't know where to start, you could go to the Elizabeth Dole Foundation website and start there. If it pertains to you being a military caregiver, good. But if not, you can always ask around and tag in another caregiver to help you find the resources that you do need.
Absolutely. And there's a website on the screen now too. AARP has a tremendous amount of resources that people can go to and just click and find out where they can go to get additional help as they need additional help as well. I just want to say in the minute or so that we've got left, how proud we are of you and how you've lifted your voice. You represent so well. I'm sure your father is so proud. I wish I could have him on here interviewing him as well. But the courage that it takes to do what you're doing just really will change lives, not just the life of you and your immediate family, but it'll change lives, because as people hear your story, then they realize they're not alone. That social isolation, that all of that. So they realize that there are other people out there. And to our audience, I just want to say that we'll continue to fight for the caregivers that are out there. We'll continue to make certain that you get every possible resource that's available to you. Visit our website, come to some of our meetings and our programs, our activities, but join us in this fight to get more legislation passed to support caregivers. It's critically important because we're all going to need one or all going to be one day.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Angela, for being with us. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
CATA's regional mobility solutions can help seniors seize the day. Hear what our riders and community leaders have to say about the value CATA brings to the lives of aging adults.
My name is Louis Schnabelrausch. I'm 91, going on 92 years old. I have to depend on CATA a lot because I quit driving about 5 years ago. And it's a godsend for me. I shouldn't be driving, and because my reaction time is slower, my vision's not as good as it was 30 years ago. I ride free because I'm a veteran. Well, a lot of times I have to go to VA clinic on Cedar Street with a CATA. I use CATA 3 or 4 times a week. I use Ready Ride mostly. Sometimes go shopping. I ride free, and I appreciate that. Well, that's really something I don't have to pay to get on. Then I know that I can call them up, and they're pretty good about being punctual and stuff like that. I'll say that. I get to meet other people. I feel as it amazes me that some of the drivers will recognize somebody that they've seen 4 or 5 years ago. They remember their names. It amazes me how those on the CATA drivers, how helpful they are. I don't need help, but a lot of people do need help. And like they have a bicycle, they put that on the front, or like they'll bring some groceries out, they'll help them with the groceries, put them inside the car. So that impresses me.
Do you own a cottage or some property that you really want to protect? David, how do we do that? And if you're older adult, I mean, there's only a certain amount of time you can really enjoy a cottage.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's a life cycle to cottages, okay? And it's a tragic life cycle way too often. See, when you're a little kid, the cottage is magic. Right. Oh, can't wait to go to the cottage. You learn to swim, you learn to fish, that kind of thing. When you're a teenager,
I don't want to go to the cottage.
Yeah, grandma smells funny.
Yeah.
I don't want to go, right? But you're too cool. When you're a young adult, you don't need the cottage. You've got other things going, okay? But when you have your own kids, a little bit later on, oh, what happened to grandma's cottage? Oh, we sold it back when you were looking to pay the rent, or something like this, you see? So all too often, what we have are memories of the cool cottage that used to be, but we've got to get through that young adult phase, okay? Right. When you do an estate plan properly, you get through that phase. You prohibit people just selling off. You've got to have everybody, unanimity, everybody's got to agree on that. And what we found is when you plan for that, number one, you don't lose the cottage to the nursing home, which is routine. It's where the family farm is going as well. But number one, we don't lose the cottage, and we preserve it for that next generation. So it can be as magical for your great-grandkids as it was for your own kids.
I love it. What a great story. People never think about that. So hopefully that's news you can use. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for having me.
You may not have heard about MPART Alliance, Michigan State University MPART Alliance, but you wanted to learn what they're doing. And to talk about that, we have Claire Lutz. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Paula, for this opportunity. MPART Alliance, our main mission is to help Michigan build an infrastructure to support the direct care workforce and address the severe shortage of direct care workers that we have.
I love it.
And we do this in a number of ways. We work closely with partners, hundreds of partners across the entire state, partners within state government and allies across the state. We have several buckets of strategies that we use. One of them is around, of course, advocating for higher wages and benefits. One is around professionalizing this workforce, and we've made some real progress here. And one thing we've done is help to establish 14 state-wide competencies for direct care workers, standardized
Nice.
direct care worker
Very
competencies. Create credentials for direct care workers that are not certified nursing assistants. We have developed 14 policy recommendations for legislators that we would like to tell them about and work with them on. And a number of other things, career success models and so forth. And I would like to say that all of these things are connected. They have to be addressed simultaneously. We can't have a Band-Aid approach with a little training here, a
Right.
little higher wages
Right.
there. We need statewide leadership and a coordinated statewide plan that's very strategic. And I'm happy to say that I think we have that now, and we're doing some exciting stuff in Michigan, and really we're garnering national attention. So we should
love it.
be proud
Yay!
of what we're doing here in Michigan.
Thank you so much, MSU Empire Alliance, for all that you're doing. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, my name is Tim Palmer, physician assistant with Great Lakes Center Rheumatology, and today I would like to talk about knee pain associated with osteoarthritis. What is osteoarthritis? Osteoarthritis is where the knee is affected by factors such as surgeries, trauma, obesity. It can even be everyday activities such as sports when you were younger, or standing on a factory for your entire life in your job. It's basically the soft tissues in the joint eroding away, causing pain. The good news is despite the fact that we're all susceptible to osteoarthritis pain, is we have multiple different treatment options to help. So initially we would start with weight management, such as diet, exercise, and occasional use of NSAID medications, which would be Motrin, Advil, naproxen, and sometimes some prescription strength medications, such as Celebrex or Mobic. We would also add physical therapy, as it shows that strengthening that joint helps to alleviate pain as well. With patients that have pain after those modalities, we would typically get an x-ray first to rule out if there's anything else going on. After that, we have injections that can help alleviate pain. So cortisone injections, that's a steroid that we directly inject into the knee capsule, and that provides anti-inflammatory properties. After that, we do have what's called viscous therapy injections, and this is typically a series of injections, which is one a week for about 3 to 5 weeks. And this is a thick viscous gel that is used to simulate the synovial fluid that was once in the knee. That promotes smooth articulation and, again, corrects pain. So despite the fact that we are all affected by osteoarthritis pain, as you know, we have multiple different treatments to help manage that.
We always hear such powerful stories on AARP Real Possibilities, and today was no exception. Thank you for watching. AARP is your trusted friend and fierce defender. Our volunteers are out and about across the state, making a difference, helping their neighbors, supporting caregivers, fighting to protect Social Security, and so much more. If you'd like to join our family of volunteers, we'd love to have you. Visit our website.